So consider some of the beautiful verses describing the glory of God. We will start from 36th verse of chapter 11. Arjuna uvacha Stane Rishikesha tava prakritya.
Arjuna uvacha Stane Hrishikesh tava prakirtya
Jagat prahrushyatyanurajyate cha.
Jagat prahrusyasya anurajyate cha
Rakshamsi bhitani disho dravanti.
Rakshamsi bhitani disho dravanti
Sarve namasyanti cha siddhasangaha.
Sarve namasyanchita chiddasangha
Kasmacha tena nameran mahatman.
Tasmascha tena nameran mahatman
Kariyase brahmano vyadikatre.
Gariyase brahmano vyadikartre
Ananta devesha jagannivasa.
Ananta devesha jagannivasa
Swamaksharam sadasat tatparam yat.
Tvamaksharam sadasat tatparam yat
Swamadideva purusha puranaha.
Tvamadideva purusha puranaha
Swamasya vishwasya param nidhanam.
Tvamasya vishwasya param nidhanam
Vettasi vedyam cha param cha dhama.
Vettasi vedyam cha param cha dhamma
Tvaya tatam vishvamanantarupa.
Tvaya tatam vishvamanantarupa
Vayurvayuryamogni varunah shashankaha.
Vayuryamo agnirvarunakshashankaha
Prajapatistam prapitamahascha.
Prajapatisvam prapitamahascha
Namo namastestu sahasrakritvaha.
Namo namastestu sahasrakritvaha
Punascha bhuyopi namo namaste.
Punascha bhuyopi namo namaste
Nama purastadhita prishtataste.
Nama purastadata prishtataste
Namostu te deva sarva. Namostu te sarvata eva sarva.
Namostu te sarvata eva sarvaha
Ananta viryamita vikramasvam.
Ananta viryamita vikramasvam
Sarvam samapnoshi tatosi sarvaha.
Sarvam samapnoshi tatosi sarvaha
Sakheti matva prasabham yayuktam.
Sakheti matva prasabham yaduktam
He Krishna he Yadava he Sakheti.
He Krishna He Yadava He Saketi
Ajanata mahimanam tavedam.
Ajanata mahimanam tavedam
Maya pramadat pranayena papi.
Maya pramadat pranayena vapi
Yachavaha sartamasakritosi.
Yachavaha sartamasatkrutosi
Vihara shayyasana bhojaneshu.
Vihara shayyasana bhojaneshu
Ekotavapyachuta tatsamaksham.
एको तवाप्यच्युत तत्समक्षम्
तत्क्षामये त्वामहमप्रमेयम्
तत्क्षामये त्वामहमप्रमेयम्
पितासि लोकस्य चराचरस्य
पितासि लोकस्य चराचरस्य
त्वमस्य पूज्यस्य गुरुर्गरीयान्
त्वमस्य पूज्यश्च गुरुर्गरीयान्
त्वत्समोऽस्यप्यधिकः कुतोऽन्यः
न त्वत्समोऽस्त्यभ्यधिकः कुतोऽन्यः
लोकत्रयेऽप्यप्रतिमप्रभाव
लोकत्रयेऽप्यप्रतिमप्रभाव
तस्मात् प्रणम्य प्रणिधाय कायम्
तस्मात् प्रणम्य प्रणिधाय कायम्
प्रसादये त्वामहमीशमीड्यम्
प्रसादये त्वामहमीशमीढ्यम्
पितेव पुत्रस्य सखेव सख्युः
पितेव पुत्रस्य सखेव सख्युः
प्रियप्रियार्यार्हसि देव सोढुम्
प्रियप्रियायार्हसि देव सोढुम्
अदृष्टपूर्वं हृषितोऽस्मि दृष्ट्वा
अदृष्टपूर्वं हृषितोऽस्मि दृष्ट्वा
भयेन च प्रव्यथितं मनो मे
भयेन च प्रव्यथितं मनो मे
तदेव मे दर्शय देवरूपम्
तदेव मे दर्शय देवरूपम्
प्रसीद देवेश जगन्निवास
प्रसीद देवेश जगन्निवास
किरीटिनं गदिनं चक्रहस्तम्
किरीटिनं गदिनं चक्रहस्तम्
इच्छामि त्वां द्रष्टुमहं तथैव
इच्छामि त्वां द्रष्टुमहं तथैव
तेनैव रूपेण चतुर्भुजेन
तेनैव रूपेण चतुर्भुजेन
सहस्रबाहो भव विश्वमूर्ते
सहस्रबाहो भव विश्वमूर्ते
So these 10 verses are considered in all scriptures as the best poetic verses that describes Bhagwan. So that's been done by Arjuna. So we covered till about the 40th verse, right? And there was a glory about, even the things that are worshipped, Rudra, Indra in the 39th verse. And 40th verse, he really, describes how much she's in love with him, how much she's devoted him. He says, I prostrate you from the front, from the back, from every side. Said, you're all. There is nothing but you everywhere. So here it's not, when we say salutations, prostrations, etc., how do we relate to it, right? So one is not just prostrating as in a physical Shashtanga Namaskara. It is about surrendering yourself to that Vishwarupa, surrendering that, to that holy force that is everywhere around us. Whenever we say become aware of the space in front of you, the side of you, back of you, etc., what does that space signify? Space is closest to that one, right? It is that the space is something that is so subtle, and that the subtlest one can at least perceive from where we are to that divinity. So whenever we talk about, so here when we say salutations, we are saying that I bow down to all the forces that are around me, that that I am part of. So if you look at it from our own self, right? My ability to eat, my ability to speak, my ability to listen, all of that, right? It is yours. And so I just simply surrender and go down in devotion to this whole thing. So if you notice here, Arjuna, from where the state he was in prior to the 11th chapter to where after the Vishwarupa Darshana, his whole ego, everything is dropped. He now is totally, you know, without any words. His valor, all that, has gone, right? Now for him, it is all Ishvara now. And now having said that, right, he suddenly realizes that till the 11th chapter, right, he was, considering Krishna as his friend. And, and they were, when they look back at their childhood days, the way they played together, you know, called them each other by names, especially Arjuna calling Krishna by names, calling him as a dark-skinned person, all kinds of things, called him Yadava, right? All of that, he didn't realize, he's saying now that, I might have called you, not realizing your glory. See, imagine, right, if it was not Krishna, let's say there was some Swamiji who came, and he becomes a Swamiji later on. What would happen, right? We would feel so humbled, right? We feel apologetic. We feel, please forgive me for things that I might have done to you. At that time, I didn't realize your greatness. But now, having seen your greatness, so he says in the 42nd verse, for example, Yachavaha Yachavahasadha Masatkritosi, right? I would have insulted you just out of fun, just out of play, not with any intention. While eating, while sleeping, pulling your hair. I might have done all that just like anybody else would have done. Please, please, please forgive me. This forgive thing, right? So here you can look at this forgiveness is not a simple forgiveness, right? Who can forgive? Tell me. See, we can say, I forgive you. Who can forgive? Normally, a person who can forgive another person is somebody is a large-hearted person, right? Somebody who is selfish, somebody who is with himself or herself will not be able to forgive. And even if they do, it'll be very artificial. So only somebody who is large-hearted, somebody like Krishna, or a great grandfather in a house, right? Somebody who's that wise person, only they forgive, not the other. So here, in there is an interesting thing there is a in Jain tradition. I remember when I was working, I had a person who was Jain, and he used to follow all the rituals. And in one of the festivals that they do, and on the last day is called a Day of Forgiveness. So that particular day, they visit people of all ages, you know, junior to them, senior to them, everybody, and simply say, for all the things I might have done unknowingly that could have hurt you physically or mentally over the last 1 year, please forgive me. And they do that. They do that as a tradition every year. I'm assuming it's still done. But it was very interesting that, it's called as a day of forgiving, day of forgiveness, where really you go down. And when you do that, right, your ego is shutting down. So typically, right, we don't go down to everybody, right? But here, everybody, even younger to you, older to you, everybody. So he continues on the 43rd verse that, you're the father of this entire world. You're everything. Father here simply means what? Father, mother, etc. What's caretaker? This world here means what? Something that is manifested, something that is unmanifested. something that is moving, something that is not moving, right? And he also says, Samasya Pujyasya Gurur Gariyan. You are the greatest guru. If there was a guru of gurus, you are that. And then, Natvat Samopyat Yadikas Kuthonyaha. Nobody can come anywhere close to you. And he also says here that, you are the instrument behind the three worlds. What are the three worlds that we know of? Tell me. Three worlds. Typically, when we talk about the three worlds, we know that there is a waking state, there is a dream state, there is a deep sleep state. That is one way to look at that thing. What are the other? What are the other three states that we know of? Right? We can talk about heaven, hell, and earth, Bhuloka, right? Heaven, upper dimension, lower dimension. All of this. And so when we talk about waking state, which is the one we should really look at it when we are in this Vedantic world. Heaven, hell, earth is there, but for us to understand from our own internal side, right? How do we relate to each of those three states? Waking state is always where intellect and mind are in place. It's working. It's what makes a waking state happen. On the other hand, when we get to a dream state, right, what happens? There is no intellect. Intellect is shut off. Only the mind is working. Now we go even further deeper, right? The deep sleep state, neither the intellect nor the mind is working. We're all in hibernation. Yet you're alive. Everything is happening. So Ishvara is there. He's the source for all these states. He's the one who ensures that we're able to experience deep sleep, a good sleep every day. So here in all of this, what is just glorifying him, right? You're the ideal parent, you're the greatest of the gurus, you're behind the three lokas, all of that. And in all of this forgiveness part is coming in. Now, when we talk about forgiveness, right? There is one. I think it's a 46. So I don't know which verse it is. I'll come to it now. Yeah. So 44th verse. See, 44th verse, right? When we talk about relationships, broadly speaking, in terms of the kind of emotions, in terms of the kind of let's just say relationships, right? There are three categories that Krishna describes here. One is a father with respect to the son. Father, maybe you can say even mother. Father, it's picked up here because father is sometimes thinks is more logical or whatever. Mother is more of the emotional side, so father is picked up here. And then a friend to another close, unconditional friend, meaning a friend whose another friend is also, has got a friendship which is beyond conditions. And the third, a lover with respect to his beloved, husband, wife. So if you see here, each of these three, right, the way the father or the mother behaves with the son is different than maybe with the beloved. And it would be different between a friend and another friend. Sometimes a friend and another friend will confide in certain things which they will not confide to maybe even their beloved, may not be with their parents. So in each of these, he's just going down to Krishna, saying that, I'm prostrating to you once again, right? And asking for your forgiveness and look at it from all these perspectives. Imagine that you're my best friend or you're my father or you're my beloved. So if you see all of these three, right, one thing that is coming in all of this, right, is the sense of devotion. You ask yourself, why is it that Bhagavad Gita is done in such a beautiful manner that there is 11th chapter before the 12th? Had the Vishwarupa Darshana not been there, the level of devotion that Arjuna had for Krishna would not have come. It would have been there, but it would have been a bit superficial. Now it's so deep. So 12th chapter is all about devotion. All about devotion. And so if you see the essence in all of these verses, the glory, etc., where is it coming from? When do you glorify somebody? When do you soak in the glory of somebody? When do you, immerse yourself and say, even mentally, about a person, right? Is when you're devoted to that person. When you're devoted, there are husbands who are very devoted to the wife and vice versa, friends versus friends, a child to the father or mother. Each of them, exemplify one thing, and that is the deep love. And when you have the deep love, person will do everything possible to forgive you. Right? Even if you make the gravest of mistakes, you'll notice a mother would say, will defend, will say, it happened for the right reason. So, Piteva Putra Sakeshu Satyuhu. So you can see that, how he's, what you call, describing his sense of devotion to Krishna. So then there is a word here, Sodam. Yeah, okay. Now going forward, next verse it will come. Yeah. Adrishta Purvam. He's going, he has seen a lot, right? If you look back from the beginning of the 11th chapter to where he is today, he first said, I just want to see you in your, in your ultimate form. Having seen that, overwhelmed by it, not able to comprehend it, and just feeling that he can't handle it anymore, he puts it in a very nice way. He says that I'm very delighted with what I've seen, because it's never been seen before. But at the same time, bhayena cha pravyatitam manome, my mind is distressed with fear. Fear because of the fierce nature of what he saw. Entire world in Krishna. Right? In a compressed form. And when you see that, and not, that means the destruction, creation, everything happens simultaneously. It is not, what you call a slow camera, right? It is fast forward camera. It's happening all together. So here he now says, show me your previous form. Tadevacha darshaya devam deva rupam. Show me your form that I am familiar with, that I have seen all these years. And show mercy on me. Prasida Devesha Jaganniva. Again, he's glorifying him. Jagannivasa. You're the one who's the caretaker for this entire thing. So, Jagannivasa. So if you see here, slowly and steadily, he wants Krishna to, Krishna is still in his Vishwarupa Darshana. He's still in that magnanimous form. And so he just says, I want to get back to, your, the Rupa that I am familiar with. So this is where, and how does he describe that form that he's referring to is there in the 46th verse. Kiritinam. Kiritinam means what? The way we have normally seen. Crown. There is a crown, there is a mace, there is a discus. Michami tvam drashtumaham tateva. Right? There's a discus, there is a Sudarshana chakra, There are four arms, and it says Chaturbhujena. Chaturbhujena here means, four arms, right? Sahasrabahu, 1,000 arms, 1,000 arms. So that universal form, the form that I have seen, that people are familiar with, we have seen also in temples, etc. The same kind of thing he wants to see there. So here, what do we understand? We all understand, right? When we look at Mahavishnu in that form, each of these represent what, right? When we look at the what is the mace and discus and all of them represent a form to to punish somebody, or danda as they call it, danda. So when you have been given enough chances and you're not healing, then there is a danda that comes in. So I try to give you enough chances for you to reconcile with your mistakes, but you're not coming out of your mistakes. Somewhere you have to get a strong message, right? And parents do it, and Ishvara does it, right? So here he's just saying that the and what is a conch? Conch is also there to awaken all of us. Conch is a sense to bring you to the present moment. You're somewhere else, right? If I blow the conch, and that's the reason it's done in temples everywhere, right? At the time there is an arati, all the bells ring, there is a conch that's played. It is to bring us to that second, that minute, so that we can all focus on the arati, focus on, the beauty of the Lord, that with all the alankaram that is there, etc., etc., right? Um, and then if it goes down to the lotus, so there is also a lotus on which he's sitting. What does the lotus represent? Lotus represents the peace, ultimate peace. Lotus represents detachment. Right? Water is sitting on the lotus leaf, and yet it is not touching. Now, when you look at the four arms, you can look at the four arms also in multiple ways. Four arms of Mahavishnu represent the four Vedas. You can come from the Veda angle. You can also say it from the four ashramas, right? Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. Four Purusharthas. Chaturbhujena also means, there's another meaning in Vedanta for it, cleverness. And you and I know that Krishna is very, very clever. If you see all of Ramayana, Mahabharata, how cleverly he navigated multiple scenarios. So, clever personality, which, of course, Arjuna has seen enough of. So, Arjuna wants, therefore, to bring him back to that form that he is comfortable with, which is where the 46th verse comes, where he's talked about, right? From here onwards, Bhagavan is going to tell a few verses. We will chant that part now. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Maya Prasannena Tavajunedam
Maya Prasannena
Tavarjunedam
Rupam Param Darshita Matmayogat
Rupam Param Darshitamatmayogat
Tejomayam Vishwamanantamadhyam
Tejomayam Vishwamanantamadyam
Yanme Tvadanyena Drishtaپurvam
Yanme Tvadanyena na Drashtapurvam
Na Veda Yagyadya Yenaina Danaihi
Na Veda Yajñadyayanainandhanaihi
Na Chakriya Na Chakriya Bhinna Tadobirugreihi
Na Chakra Kriya Bintapobirugraihi
Evam Rupa Shakya Aham त्रिलोके
एवं रूपः शक्य अहं नृलोके
द्रष्टुं त्वदन्येन कुरु प्रवीर
द्रष्टुं त्वदन्येन कुरु प्रवीर
नाते त्वथा मा च विमूढभावो
मा ते व्यथा मा च विमूढभावो
दृष्ट्वा रूपं घोरमिडर्मिडर्ममेदम्
दृष्ट्वा रूपं
घोरमि
what is this, sir? Me drujma medam, correct?
It is actually Drangmamedam. I'll repeat it.
Okay.
Drashtva Rupam Goramidrangmamedam.
Drushtva rupam ghoramidrunmamedham
Yapeta Pritamana Punastvam.
व्यपेतभिः प्रीतमना पुनस्त्वम्
Tadevama Rupamidam Prapashya.
तदेव मे रूपमिदं प्रपश्य.
So here Krishna is addressing Arjuna after a long time. He says, this was given to you. You're the only one, he says, who has seen it. Now, of course, you and I know wherein he has made it to be seen. One knows who read Mahabharata, knows that who the other person who has seen it. Tell me. His own mother.
Yashoda.
When he was young, Yashoda, right? When he says, see me, opens his mother. At that time, the mother saw the entire universe in his mouth, isn't it? But at that time, it was not, she could see it. Here, for it to be seen, he had to give him the divine eyes. So he's saying, out of compassion, I've made you see my Rupam. Right? Nobody else has seen it. But then you'll wonder, okay, there's a talk about in some of these verses where rishis are there, some other devatas are there. Where are they? They're all in Krishna itself. So the only one as an outsider seeing it from the outside was none other than, Arjuna. So that's what he says. Because of my grace, you're able to see it. There's a word called Rupam Param Drashtum Matema Yoga. The yoga word, right, has come even before. Yoga here means, what is this yoga power that he's referring to here? Yoga here means that seeing all in one. So there are two aspects, right? Seeing one in everyone, seeing the same Ishvara in everyone, that is also is glory. And then seeing everyone in one. Remember, this came up in the 10th chapter, these aspects. Seeing everyone, which is yoga. Vibhuti yoga. Remember the chapter, Vibhuti yoga? Vibhuti was what? Seeing one in everyone. Which is where all the, examples of whatever you see, the season, this, that, etc. That will be Vibhuti. Then there is another aspect of it that everyone is merged into one, which is yoga. So he goes on to, exemplify himself. He's just saying, I am the one who is full of splendor, infinite, universal form, and it's been seen by no one else. Yanme vadanyena drashta purvam. This whole vision, whole witness, no one else has seen it. Not even the gods in heaven. Not even the devatas. You're the only one. So here we have to understand a few things, right? What is he also meaning in some of this? Splendor, infinite, right? So when he talks about, what did we see there in the Vishwarupa? Something that was pleasant, and something that was not pleasant, right? Remember how he was eating? There was the way it was described, right? You would have felt a bit disturbing to the mind, right? To see, hear all of those words. So in life also, for each and every one of us, there are pleasant circumstances, there are unpleasant circumstances, according to our definition. From an Ishvara perspective, there is nothing called pleasant or unpleasant. Everything is, you know, what you call, everything is good from his perspective. Only we put put a condition, right? This is good, this is bad. This person is showing a face of anger, but we saw the fierceness, like when we look at, what you call, sorry, Krishna or Mahavishnu, with all the disgust and the way it is used to punish somebody, it is disturbing, but that is reality. Everything happens. There is nothing called good or bad. So here, I think he's just making everyone understand, therefore, that don't reject, something that is unpleasant to you as Ishvara's, what you call, being harsh. Sometimes, when there is a cyclone, whenever there's an earthquake, when multiple people died in certain events, right? Who do we normally blame? It is the climate. And whom do we blame the climate? On some, power. So this whole thing is, you understand the deeper meaning of this verse. It says Leela. Everything is a Leela. Even Leela, doesn't have to be all only hunky dory. People are dancing together with smiles. Even if somebody has to go through, a cremation is a Leela. People dying is a Leela. You going through some difficult, challenging circumstances, you and I, is a Leela of this. Because in everything, there is a purpose, there is an intent. Nothing happens just like that. If I'm going through a certain challenge, it is for me to experience it so that I learn. And it is also somewhere awakening that I might have done some things in the past because of which I have to experience that. Right. So sooner or later, that balancing mechanism happens for everybody. Right. So that is what is one of the messages that comes from this verse. So therefore, cling to him. He's the ultimate in all of this. And whenever you go through these difficult circumstances, also just smile away with it, right? And just say that it is his Leela. Right? I have to go through it. It's for a good reason. And now he goes on to say the 48th verse here. Thank you. Yeah. 48th verse. Now, who are the people who get to see this? Who is eligible to see the Vishwarupa? Who is the person who can become a real life person? Let's call it a real life person here. So here he very clearly says, see the words that are used here. Not by the study of the Veda. Might say, wow, Veda studying itself is such a holy thing. Vedas, Upanishads. Na Veda Yagyat Vedatya Enaina Dhanehi. Not by Dhanam. I give, a complete, 10 acres of land for some spiritual organization. Very good. No question. That itself doesn't take you there. So it's not by rituals also. Nacha Kriya Bhinna. Kriya Bhinna means what? All the Vedic rituals. Then Tapopi Rugraihi. I do tapas. I just for 15 days I am in mauna, or I don't eat, or I eat very restrictively. I don't do certain things. Right? 1008 Gayatri Mantra, weeks together, whatever you can call there. Right? Evam Rupam Shakya Aham Loke. So all of these right, does not make one eligible. The only way somebody can reach me is by my own grace. So when we say grace here, who is Krishna to Arjuna? Is Guru. So it is said in our scriptures, even in certain Upanishads, it's ultimately it's like going to the tip of Mount Everest, right? I can go to the third base, fourth base, etc. But to take me to that last point, there has to be a Guru that takes me there. So that is what he's referring to here, that so this is this is said in many other scriptures, but this was clearly mentioned this. And so therefore here, one thing that comes right, nowhere does he say here that you have to be a sannyasi in this verse. Nowhere does it say here that you have to be wearing a certain uniform, etc. Right? It just says, Vedas, things this can be done by even a grihastha. You don't have to be in a particular ashrama, because otherwise you would have put it, right? You have to be in this ashrama to get here. None of it, right? So be it in any ashrama. Of course, it is a bit more difficult in certain ashramas to reach here. That is understood by each one of us. But it does not necessarily, right? And we know that for a fact, right? People have been in multiple ashramas and have been realized souls based on multiple, stories we've seen from the past. Okay, then 39. So therefore, he says in the 49th verse, therefore, this vision of mine that I've given you, it would have been terrible. You would have been shocked, right? And he'll say, sing slowly, I will bring you back to the form that I am part of truly. So that's what he says in Tadeva na rupam idam pranamya. So I will behold my form. I'll bring back my form. And slowly and steadily, the 49th, 50th verse onwards, Krishna goes back to his original or normal human form. Let's call it that way. Normal human form that Arjuna has been very comfortable with. I think we will probably stop here because it's a logical point. Because of the other verses now leads into the next chapter. So next week next class we will conclude this chapter. Maybe we may also do a quick revision of this chapter also next class. Any thoughts, any feelings?
I feel that the